Well, this is Saturday the 5th of June, and this is episode 2122 of 301 Permanently Moved to Online, a personal podcast 301 seconds in length, written, recorded, and edited by me, at the JMO. So things might sound a little bit different today, because I'm trying an experiment. If you go back and listen to the first 5 or 6 episodes of this show, you'll hear that I made them largely off the cuff, unscripted. And if you listen to the very first episode of this show, episode 1801, you'll find that it sounds very different from what it became. But not that different from today's show. You'll hear hints of what the show turned into, a tightly scripted 5-minute episode, but you'll also hear hints of a different show, something more improvisational, unscripted. It's a road that I didn't explore. But now in 2021, as we're in the midst of season 4, perhaps it's time to take a look at that unexplored road again. So the plan for this episode is for me to speak off the cuff and record a whole episode, but this time use Descript, which means that I can generate a transcript from my audio recording, and I'm shooting video. So if you go to my YouTube channel or the show notes for this episode, you'll find the video embedded. And I think the next time that I do this, I'll try and record a fully scripted episode with the video and see how that turns out. But that won't be next week because I'm going on holiday and I'm going to the woods. Next week's episode will be guest hosted by J. David Osborne, the writer, podcast host of No Country, and blogger over at brokenriverbooks.com. He's already sent it over, and it's really good. It's going to be a great episode. I hope you enjoy it too. I've set myself a limit of 3 takes for this episode, so essentially about half an hour of recording, 10 minutes each. And what you're hearing and seeing is probably all different parts of that spliced together into the one episode. I must admit, I've already come across several technical challenges in that my 2015 MacBook Pro won't actually edit 1080p video inside Descript. So I'm going to have to record it on my Mac with the camera and my microphone all plugged into the hub. And then I have to upload it to the cloud, get out my Windows laptop, and then edit the video on there, which is a little annoying, as you can imagine, but we'll see how it turns out. I don't really know what to talk about for the rest of the episode, to be honest. When I went on my big trip around Asia, we finished up in Perth, Australia, and stayed with my good friend, Dr. Kane. He was a really close colleague of mine at a startup that I used to work at, and together we were known as the Fun Brothers, so he knows me really well. While we're in Perth, he and Eve were both talking about me, and they were joking about how I always have opinions about things. So then that developed as a running joke that became Pin of the Day, or POTD. So perhaps that's what it is. Today's pin. What shall we talk about? Etsy buying Depop seems like a pretty big deal. I think it was $1.6 billion that they spent. I think that's a really interesting move and a really big deal to the second-hand and individual creator economy. I think we'll probably see services being created inside of the Etsy landscape that are also related to Depop. Mending services, embroidery, so on and so forth, that uses the Depop infrastructure, but the service or product setup from Etsy. I'd send my shirts off to get tailored by someone local instead of taking them into the tailors. It'd probably be cheaper. I mean, I don't know about you, but Depop is absolutely massive. And it also speaks to a wider trend that's going on in the fashion industry. I read the other day that pre-owned apparel is worth up to $40 billion a year currently, and it's about 2% of the overall clothes market. But that is expected to grow about 15 to 20% annually, I think it is, for the next 5 years. The number of people visiting high street shops at the moment, post-pandemic, or in this opening up period that we're in, is about over a third down on May 2019. And I think this is because people just don't want fast fashion anymore. And I know that this is kind of me confirming my biases from my This Is It essay, but I believe it to be true. I mean, I hang out in the solarpunk community on Tumblr and in Discord, and there is very much a trend of people not wanting to engage with fast fashion, people only wanting to buy quality things. With the growth of Depop in the last few years, especially in my kind of friendship groups in London, it also makes me wonder what eBay is now for. I'm only really familiar with Etsy from looking at people selling 3D printed wargame models. It's definitely a hidden part of the creator economy that people who usually focus on podcasters and people who use Patreon, etc., kind of gets overlooked. Honestly, this has been really hard and I'm going to try and get better at it. Maybe the only way I can do that is through practice. I started this show because I wanted to make something. Now I'm trying to add video, and why not experiment? But as I said, I'm going to try this again with a script and we'll see how it goes.